On the point of that knife, a man's life is at stake.
I'm just saying it's possible.
And I say it's not possible.
So hey guys, welcome back to the Pop Corner and welcome back to the episode number 7 of Cult Classic Sundays. This is my series where every Sunday I watch a cult classic movie for the very first time and talk about it with you guys. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about 12 Angry Men. After doing a poll on my channel, most of you guys voted for the 12 Angry Men, and I have to say 12 Angry Men is the most voted movie on my channel yet, and that is why I decided to watch this movie for today's episode. This movie is about 12 jurors who have to decide whether an 18-year-old boy is guilty of stabbing his father to death, and 11 of the jurors are convinced that this boy is guilty, but one of the jurors, played by Henry Fonda, who is kind of the main character of this movie, he is convinced that this boy is not guilty. And the whole movie is about convincing one another and come to an unanimous verdict. Before we get into my thoughts, I want to tell you guys a few interesting facts about this movie. First of all, this entire movie was shot in just 21 days. I mean, this is really a huge thing, and this is really interesting given the fact that this movie came out in 1957 and the technology was so limited, and they achieved this remark by finishing this whole movie in only 21 days. Another interesting thing is that almost the whole movie takes place in one single jury room. And here's something interesting that I found about this room when I was searching about this movie, that the walls of this room was movable, and the director Sidney Lumet decided to close in the walls whenever the argument is heated and the people are angry, and whenever the situation is getting serious, the director decided to move the walls inwards to make the situation look more claustrophobic and more tight, and that is really interesting creative thing to do. Another interesting fact about this movie is that we never got to know the names of any jurors. They were simply juror 1, juror 2, juror 3, like that. In the very last of this movie, we found out the name of the character of Henry Fonda and Joseph Sweeney. Other than that, we never got to the name of all the characters, all the jurors in the movie, and that is really creative thing to do, because if you don't know the name, you focus on the personality of the person in front of you. You judge them by their personality, by their action, and by the way they are talking. So, and even though this movie wasn't a big box office success when this movie came out in 1957, but after that this movie became a cult classic, and later this movie has been preserved in National Film Registry, which is a really huge thing. So with that said, let's just get into the discussion. Guys, before watching this movie, I had heard the name 12 Angry Men so many times, but somehow I never got around to watching it. And honestly, I didn't even knew that this movie is a black and white movie which came out in 1957. I always thought that this is some movie from 90s or 80s. So after most of you guys voted for this movie in the poll, I looked it up and I found out that when this movie came out, that this movie is in black and white, and the interesting plot this movie has. That is why I decided to watch this movie. And one thing I have to say, I wish more courtroom drama movies today were like this. This movie is about 90 minutes long and not a single scene feels unnecessary. Everything's matter. The writing is crisp, the pacing is so far that I never got bored. And what I really loved about this movie is that we never got to see the courtroom, we never got to see the murder, we never got to see the evidence, we never got to see the trial. Everything we know comes only from the discussion that jurors are having in the room. And while I was watching it, I noticed one thing that was really interesting. I have to share with you guys. The movie tells us and movie shows us that there are 12 jurors in the movie who are deciding whether this boy is guilty or not. But actually, I think there were 13 jurors in this movie. The 13th juror is us, because just like them, we don't know what really happened. We only hear arguments that are happening in this room, and we only got to see those evidence that jurors were discussing, that the juror were debunking, and every time they were debunking evidence or they were debunking a testimony, whatever, my opinion, my verdict was changing with that. I mean, that's why I think there were 13 jurors, because this movie pulls us into it and make us decide whether this boy is guilty or not, and that is really clever writing. I absolutely love that. Another thing I liked about this movie is the direction. I mean, you can't say that this is the first feature film that Sidney Lumet has ever directed. This was his directorial debut, and he did a hell of a job. The direction of this movie was so great. It was amazing. You can't say that this is the movie the some person directed for the first time. And one thing that I really loved about this movie, I want to share with you guys, that I have said this so many times on this channel, that I really love when a movie take place in an isolated location, or in one location, because when you are stuck in a room for 90 minutes, that's where you can't rely on big actions and big visuals. The writing has to be top notch, the acting has to be top notch, the dialogues has to be top notch, and this movie plays and wins in all three fields. It was amazing. It was amazingly done. You can't feel bored, or you can't even feel that movie is dragging, not for even a second. And even though the situation in the movie was serious, I actually found myself smiling and laughing every time when they were debunking evidence or a testimony from the witness. Every time they were doing that, every time someone is changing their verdict, I was having fun, I was laughing, and it was really great and it was amazing. It was so satisfying to watch. Every juror in this movie represent a different type of person you meet in your real life. A different personality, different opinion, different prejudice, different way of thinking, and that's what makes the conversation so interesting. They are having argument, they are getting angry each other. I mean, the movie itself caused 12 angry men, and the anger in this room, it was really great. It was funny watching them arguing on something. And one thing I also noticed, that there wasn't a single woman in the jury. I don't know if it is because of how the American justice system used to work back then in 1957. I don't know, maybe this was the specific case. It was maybe coincident that there was no woman in the jury. If you guys know anything about that, let me know in the comment box below. Overall, now I absolutely understand why so many people kept recommending this movie to me over the weeks. It absolutely deserved to be called a cult classic. I had a really great time watching it. If you guys have never seen 12 Angry Men, I definitely recommend watching it. It is short, it is incredible, well written, the performances are amazing, and it proves you don't need big action or huge set pieces to make an unforgettable movie. So what about you guys? Have you seen 12 Angry Men? If you have, let me know what you guys think about it. And if you remember your first time watching it, I would love to know what your experience was like, or even better, write a small review about it if you can in the comment box below, because I genuinely want to know whether you guys agree with me, or if you had a completely different experience. So that's all in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care.